Krishna Nama Charita Disitapya Vidya Pitto Pataptarasanasya Narochikanu Kintvadaradanutinam Khalusaiva Jushta Swad Vikramad Bhavati Tadgadamula Hantri. Holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet, like sugar candy. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya, ignorance, cannot taste anything sweet, it's wonderful that simply by carefully chanting these sweet names every day, an actual relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So, from the verse 1 we saw the urges to be controlled, then verse 2 and 3 we saw the lifestyle that it is required to control those urges, and in verse 4, 5, 6 we saw how to deal in the association of devotees, how to behave in the association of devotees, what is the general loving dealings that we can have with devotees is mentioned, was in mention 4 verse 4. Then how to actually apply those loving exchanges according to the category of different devotees, how to rightly apply in that 6 loving exchanges with appropriate devotees, that we saw in verse 5. And in the verse 5 specifically it mentioned about taking shelter of a uttamadhikari and serving them. So what can happen, or how not to deal with such a uttamadhikari, because when we go and close and serve them, there may be problems due to our material conditionings and faults. So how to avoid those? So that caution we saw in verse 6. So far this is all about lifestyle to control the urges, sense control, which is the first activity of first duty of any spiritual aspirant. And what is the association, because association of devotees is where we will learn everything and apply. So now for the first time Srila Rupa Goswami is directly addressing what is the spiritual practice that we need to do, because one can be in the association of devotees for many years, one can try to control senses, all these things, but the main medicine, the main thing is actually chanting of the holy names. That is the main process. To do that properly, we are doing all other things. So if we do everything perfectly, but we don't follow the verse 7, then also there will be very minimal effect. Of course, the association of devotees will inspire us to take to the holy names, but ultimately we have to do this process given in the verse 7. So verse 7 is the process of Bhajana Kriya actually. What do we do? What is the main bhajan that we perform? So here Bhajana Kriya and Anartha Nivritti is all mentioned in this verse. So what is the Bhajana Kriya? Is the chanting of the holy names. And through the process of chanting the holy names, the anarthas, the unwanted, the undesirable things in the heart go away. And naturally there is a taste awakens. So that's what is being mentioned in this verse. So we'll have a bird's eye view of Srila Prabhupada's purport, and then we can discuss on this purport. So Prabhupada says the scientific process for regaining a pure Krishna consciousness. So how do we, now we don't have it, how do we actually regain that? That is what is the purpose of this whole verse. So the Prabhupada writes in the purport towards the end, the conclusion is that in order to get freed from the material disease, one must take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. That is the main process. So Srila Prabhupada starts with explaining what is the diseased state. Because in this particular verse, if you see translation, there are it's a nice analogy used. This analogy Srila Prabhupada uses in many other places also, taken from Upadeshamrit, that how a person who is afflicted with jaundice cannot actually taste sugarcane juice as sweet. He feels it very bitter. But that same sugarcane juice, which he is experiencing as a bitter taste, if he continues to taste it, in spite of it being tasting bitter, if he continues to take it, that sugarcane juice will actually cure him of jaundice, and gradually he will regain the sweet taste of the sugarcane juice. So similarly, the ignorance, avidya of the living entity is actually causing the living entity not to have any attraction to the transcendental names, forms, and qualities of the Supreme Lord. So because they don't have a taste, if they won't chant Hare Krishna, they will never be, the avidya, the jaundice will never go away. So they have to continue to take the same holy name, which may be very difficult now, but that same holy name will remove the disease of avidya. So that is why this analogy, sugarcane and jaundice, is analogy is given. So our disease state is that we don't have any taste for chanting Hare Krishna, chanting about Krishna's names, chanting about Krishna's pastimes. Everything Krishna conscious tastes bitter. And the Prabhupada analyzes the cause of the disease as twofold. One is the individual actions and the collective actions. Individual actions is because of our ignorance, forgetfulness of Krishna, attraction to the external energy or Maya, and accepting bad or false shelters, durashraya, having false hopes in this world, taking shelter of various other things which are actually born of the external energy, which are temporary in nature, an inability to understand the mistakes made. So, because of all these individual mistakes, the individual misgivings, we have this diseased state now. And collectively, Srila Prabhupada is saying that is due to the atheistic leadership. Because the atheistic leadership, they are blind and they are actually against someone surrendering because they themselves are miscreants, they don't surrender. And they also encourage others not to surrender. And they oppose those who try to surrender. So in this way, they make the whole society surcharged with atheism. So the diseased stated we don't have attraction, the cause is individual and collective. And the cure, how can we cure this, is simple, is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and hears Krishna's transcendental pastimes with great care and attention and avoid the 10 basic offenses. And Prabhupada says this process of Hare Krishna is easy as well as beneficial. Because how is it beneficial? It relieves one from all misconceptions. Because avidya is a misconception of one's original identity. So that misconception is removed from the heart by the chanting of Hare Krishna. Cheto darpana marjanam, bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam, shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam, vidya vadu jivanam. So that is the cause of the ignorance is actually ignorance is removed. The cause of all the misconceptions is removed. Freedom from blazing fire of material existence and material disease. That is the problem of blazing. Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. That is being mentioned by Srila Prabhupada. And where to find this cure, where to practice this cure? Prabhupada says that it's in the Krishna conscious movement, ISKCON. And he says a very nice statement. He says the Krishna conscious movement is especially started meant for creating an atmosphere in which people can take to the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. The main purpose of the movement is to actually inspire people to take to the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra and create an atmosphere where people can chant. So, and he says there is a process for this. The person starts with a small amount of faith, Shraddha, and when he gets into the association of devotees, either he sees the Sankirtan or he comes to temples, watches the devotees performing chanting, then he becomes also attracted. He also engages in that. So his Bhajana Kriya is he performs his 16 rounds and 4 regulative principles. When he follows that, then all the unwanted things in the heart as anartha nivritti, they are removed. Then he has a firm faith. The initial faith was a small faith, a little faith, but because he invested in that, that small little investment has grown into a stable, big amount of faith. That is Nishta. And ahead he goes, he develops taste for the chanting now. Initially, he did not like it, but he kept doing it. So he awakens this taste, and there is asakti, attachment. He develops attachment to activities of Krishna consciousness. And eventually, by the grace of Krishna, there is when the internal energy is invoked, he achieves this state of bhava. And Srila Prabhupada says this is the healthy state actually. The minimal healthy state is actually bhava because there is no he goes to a state of irrevocable attachment to Krishna. So the preliminary state of pure love of Godhead. So conditioned soul becomes free from material existence. At this stage of bhava, the conditioned soul becomes free from material existence. Even though he may be living, in his consciousness, he is completely free from the material existence. He loses interest in the bodily conception of life, that is material opulence, material knowledge. He can clearly understand who Krishna is, the Supreme Lord, and what is his external energy, Maya is. He can clearly differentiate. and undisturbed by Maya. Even though Prabhupada says in this world, the presence of Maya will always be there. Even though he is living in this world and the presence of Maya is there, he is undisturbed. So, and then Srila Prabhupada is quoting this shloka from Madhya Leela Chaitanya Charitamrita that Yahan Krishna Taha Nahi Maya Radhikar, where Krishna Surya Sama. Krishna is like sun, Maya Hai Andhakar, Maya is like shadow. Where there is Krishna, where there is sun, there is no shadow. Similarly, where there is Krishna, there is no Maya. So he quotes this particular verse. We can also see the same in the form of a mind map. This verse 7 can be divided into two sections. One is the problem, one is the solution. The problem is the diseased condition of life, which is either having lack of attraction to Krishna's name, form, qualities, or pastimes, or attraction to material life. Lack of attraction to Krishna and attraction to material life. This is the problem. This together is the diseased condition of life. And the lack of attraction to Krishna's name, form, and pastimes is due to ignorance or avidya. And what avidya does to us, what it makes her, it perverts the ability to relish the transcendental name. Perverts means it does not take away attraction, it replaces the attraction. Instead of being attracted to Krishna, we become attracted to Maya. So it just perverts our abilities. So material nature, all that it does is it just perverts the innate nature that we have. We are generally attracted to Krishna and want to serve Krishna. Instead, we become attracted to Maya and want to serve our own senses. So that is the perverting ability of the material nature. And this is this causes the lack of attraction to Krishna's name, form, and pastimes and qualities. And the reason for attraction to material life, as we saw, is individual and collective. Individual is due to the forgetfulness of Krishna, due to attraction of Maya, and the other one is due to atheistic leadership. And the solution for this is the cultivation of Krishna consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna. The cultivation of Krishna consciousness in general, but specifically by chanting Hare Krishna, because Srila Prabhupada says the only remedy for this problem, the material disease, is actually chanting Hare Krishna. Why and what are the effects of chanting Hare Krishna? It relieves one from all misconceptions and it destroys the avidya or ignorance in the heart. And the verse quoted is Bhava Mahadava Agni Nirvapanam from Shikshashtakam. And Srila Prabhupada also suggests this process of cultivation. How do you cultivate that Krishna consciousness? So begin chanting Hare Krishna with little faith, associate with devotees, and in that way, continuing to engage, one goes till the stage of bhava and prema. And he gives the symptoms of bhava, that complete freedom from material existence, loses interest in bodily consumption, has full knowledge about the Supreme Lord, and no disturbance by Maya at the stage of bhava. So these are the various things that we saw. So the one is the problem and the solution. Both are mentioned in this verse. Prabhupada mentions in some of his lectures and purports about these things. The more you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the more you become fit to understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. That is the process. Sevon Mukhe Hi Jihvadav. Everything begins with the tongue, about chanting or taking prasad. And Srila Prabhupada writes in NOI itself in the text 5, unless one faithfully chants the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna does not reveal himself. So we cannot realize the Supreme Lord by any artificial means. So the only way to realize Krishna is to actually please Krishna by chanting, by serving Krishna. And that service begins with chanting and honoring prasad. The holy name is actually the sweetest nectar, but until we reach the spontaneous stage of devotion, one has to outsmart the mischievous mind. The mind is called chanchala or unfaithful, but it can become the devotee's best friend. So that is, it has a potential to become a friend. So when one chants Hare Krishna and performs other duties with concentration and devotion, the mind clears and the devotee realizes his true interest. One is we chant Hare Krishna, but we cannot chant Hare Krishna throughout the day. So we chant Hare Krishna attentively and we perform other duties with concentration and devotion. So by that our mind becomes pacified and we will be able to chant our rounds also attentively. Attentive round makes us more devotional during our other activities. In this way, the mind gradually clears and the devotee realizes his true interest. Then the devotee becomes attracted to serving the holy names in the Ekantina spirit. Ekantina spirit is just Krishna. When you will chant, you will hear also. Srila Prabhupada is saying in an initiation, then your attention will be there and you're chanting and you're thinking something else. Oh, that's also another offense. So we're not supposed to think and chant and actively think of something else. You should be very careful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. If you cannot hear, then you will chant loudly. You will chant loudly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. So you must hear. That is wanted. Otherwise, you will be inattentive, and that is an offense. So as you chant, try to hear each word very carefully and always complete your 16 rounds. Regular and attentive chanting, along with following the 4 regulative principles, will keep one pure. Simply by following these principles and chanting Hare Krishna, one can make his life successful and perfect. Srila Prabhupada is writing this in a letter. It's like a personal instruction, personal advice that he is giving. Complete your rounds. Follow the 4 regulative principles. If you just do this, you will become pure. Not just become pure, you can perfect your life. So he's assuring that if someone does this, I'll assure the rest. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada is encouraging the chanting of Hare Krishna as the remedy. And the Piyusha Varshini Vritti, which is by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in this commentary, he says, the third verse that we saw, what is the third verse, if someone can remind? Yes, Paresh Prabhu?
Utsahan nishtayadhyarya tattat karma pravartanat sangatyaga satyavritti sadbir bhakti prasidyati.
So these 6 qualities, thank you, Paresh Prabhu. These 6 qualities are mentioned by Rupa Goswami in the third verse of Nectar of Instruction. He says these 6 qualities actually nourish one's devotion service. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying this 7th verse that we are discussing talks about the process for cultivating the chanting of Krishna Nam, etc., with the help of the qualities mentioned in the 3rd verse. Because enthusiasm, for what? Because in that particular verse, we only saw we should be enthusiastic, we should have confidence, we should have patience. But for what? That process is being explained, he is saying. We should be enthusiastic to chant Hare Krishna. We should be confident that Hare Krishna will actually purify my heart. This chanting will purify my heart. And even if it takes time, just being patient, that I have to pass through this whole episode, whole phase of Anartha Nivritti. So having these qualities, all these 6 qualities needs to be applied on this. Tat karma pravartanat. If you go back and refer in tat karma pravartanat, Srila Prabhupada says, what is tat karma pravartanat? Chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regulative principles. One of the explanation that he gives is for tat karma pravartanat is that. And sangatyagat, give up that association which actually does not encourage you to chant Hare Krishna, which actually it decreases your ability to chant Hare Krishna, which makes you disinterested, which distracts you from chanting Hare Krishna. Avoid all those associations. It could be people, it could be gadgets, it could be various stuff that we engage in. It could be anything. Asat Sangha is not just people. We also saw in the previous week, Asat Sangha could be our own attachment in the heart. It could be objects. It could be thoughts from the previous life. It could be people. So all kinds of asat sangha we need to give up. So sangatyaga satovritte, following in the footsteps. Okay, acharyas, come what may, they completed their rounds. Come what may, they actually kept up their vows. So that's what I also follow. This is the only path. If chanting Hare Krishna is getting delayed, if it is not working, I give up that and try something else. No, satovritte, follow the path of the Mahajans. They only chanted Hare Krishna as the main process. We also keep to it. So in this way, those 6 qualities mentioned in verse 3 needs to be applied on this verse 7, which is the process of cultivating Krishna consciousness through chanting Hare Krishna and hearing Krishna's pastimes, qualities, and form like that. A tongue afflicted by the jaundice of ignorance lacks taste for glorifying Krishna's names, pastimes, etc. But by daily honoring the Mishri is sugar candy, of Krishna's name and pastimes with care, attention, and respect. This is one important thing. Doing every day is one thing, but doing it with care, attention, and respect. It's very explicitly mentioned. It's not like I inattentively chant and expect results. It's clearly mentioned in the verse itself. Kintu adarad anudinam khalusaiva jushta. Kintu adarad. Adara is respect, care, attention. The disease of ignorance is destroyed and a sublime transcendental taste is awakened. So this verse is considered one of the important verses because all the previous verses are actually to aid this process of chanting Hare Krishna. And from here, actually, the advancement happens to the next stage that is explained in verse 8. To the degree that this original nature is rekindled, to that degree, gradually taste from Nama increases, and at that time, ignorance is destroyed. It is compared to the effect of sugar candy. In the beginning, when the tongue is afflicted with jaundice, too much bile, it does not like the sweet taste. But by regular taking of sugar candy, the bile gradually decreases, and that much the taste for the sugar candy increases. So please hear, glorify, and remember with great enthusiasm, faith, and patience Krishna's name and his form, pastimes, and so on, which are revealed by his name. So first we start with the holy name, then the name reveals us form, pastimes, and so on. And here you see clearly he says all those qualities of utsaha, nischaya, dhairya needs to be applied in the process of hearing, glorifying, and remembering Krishna. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his purport, Srila Upadeshamrita Anuvritti, that when the jiva is subordinate to ignorance, he has great faith in his body, wealth, community, and attachments, and his misconception that the Lord and Maya are of the same undivided substance. Therefore, he cannot understand his own original constitutional position. However, by the strength of Krishna's holy name, his false identification, which is born of ignorance, disappears, just as fog disappears when the sun rises. At that time, only serving Krishna will be pleasing to him. So naturally, through the process of chanting Hare Krishna, he destroys his ignorance, and only then serving Krishna will be pleasing to him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, lot of chanting but no prema. If someone says, I chant a lot, but I'm not achieving the stage of prema, he says, inattentiveness is the problem. He says, inattentiveness in chanting is difficult to eradicate from hearts attached to sense objects. On the one side, if I'm attached to sense objects, I don't follow verse 1. I don't follow verse 2. If I'm having attraction to sense objects, then I cannot expect my chanting to be adarad, attentive with respect and care. So inattentiveness in chanting cannot be overcome without giving up our attachment to sense objects. That's what Srila Prabhupada said, 4 regulative principles and chanting Hare Krishna. Both go hand in hand. Because if a person does not follow the regulative principles, and even if he tries to chant in the initial stages, it can help. But the more one knows, the more one understands, he will not be able to happily chant Hare Krishna. His ability to chant Hare Krishna will be limited. He may even gradually give up the chanting of Hare Krishna. So he says, okay, what do I do about it? I don't have prema, I don't have attention. So then this is what he says, consciously and carefully develop a following. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving these routine, develop this. This is a self-affirmation he is teaching us. We have to not just say this to us, but we also practice. I always take care not to neglect completing the number of names to be chanted according to my vow. I see to this regularly again and again. So this is the first thing, get the numbers right. Generally we think, oh, it's just external. No, he's saying get the numbers first. So this we need to reaffirm for ourselves and practice, that I always take care not to neglect completing the number of names that I need to be chant. I chant the holy names with great attention. First he got the quantity tick. Then he is focusing on the quality. I chant the holy names with great attention, free from the offense of inattentiveness. I engage in bhajana. So here he got quality in terms of attention and avoiding inattention. Giving up the ambition to simply increase my numbers, I am now aware that I can constantly chant the holy name only by your mercy. So just for the sake of prestige, just want to increase, instead of just increasing the numbers, we need to understand it is not my ability that I can just chant Hare Krishna. Because in another place it is said, what is the difference between a Kanishta and a Uttam? Kanishta things, devotional activities are exhibited because of my senses. Like I want to do and I have the ability to do, so I do things. My tongue vibrates, holy name comes out, and I do these services, so then the deities get dressed. I do this cooking, then the deity get food. So he has an attitude of I am the doer. That is a Kanishta. But a Uttama understands all this is happening by Krishna's mercy. So here also it is the same. I am now aware that I can constantly chant the holy name only by your mercy. It's not my own endeavor. I'll just increase my rounds on my own strength. No, Krishna has to give a mercy and the ability to chant continuously. And then when he realizes I need Krishna's mercy, I can do it on my own self, then he becomes humble and he prays, please be merciful to me. So far he thought I will do. From that I will do mentality, he has come now, okay, now I need Krishna's mercy also. I need to externally endeavor, but ultimately I need Krishna's mercy to achieve it. So he now prays, please be merciful to me, O Lord, so that the offense of inattention in chanting never blocks my ability to relish the rasa of the holy name. The sincere sadhaka realizes overcoming inattention is not just in my capacity alone. It's just not going to happen by my capacity alone. So he prays and asks for help from the Supreme Lord. And the other practice that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says is like, I should regularly spend a little time alone in a quiet place and practice concentrating deeply on the holy name. Because this is where actually a person's natural, what he actually takes shelter of, what he likes, what he actually relishes can be seen when he spends a little time alone in a quiet place. When we are just by ourselves and we have a little time, where is our attention going? What are we doing? That is where we actually see, that is what we see as a source of happiness. But if a devotee can regularly spend a little time, it's apart from the 16 rounds. It's not just, okay, I only spend a little time alone in a quiet place, completely I'm trying to concentrate, I don't need to chant my rounds. That's why he got the quantity right first. So after that 16 rounds are over, then when you little time as like a practice to concentrate and deeply on the holy name, one can try. So therefore, I pray constantly at your lotus feet to be able to always utter each name distinctly and to experience emotion when meditating on them. Simply by one's own effort, no one in this material world can overcome inattention. Such a victory can only come by your merciful blessings. I take great care to beg for your mercy, my heart overcome with emotion, knowing that you're all merciful and will always be generous with your blessings. If I make no effort to attain your mercy, then I'll remain forever unfortunate. So if we don't make the effort to attain the mercy, then the Supreme Lord cannot just force it upon us. So he says, if we think, oh, I have committed offenses, what do I do now? So as soon as a person humbly surrenders himself to the holy name, all the offenses he has committed are immediately nullified. Yet, if due to some negligence he once again commits namaparad, it will jeopardize his progress in bhakti. The only antidote to such an accident is to intensify chanting. By regular serious chanting, one should solidly reaffirm his faith and mood of surrender to the holy name. And on the strength of such sincere chanting, namaparad will be driven away, far away. The holy name protects those who take refuge of the holy name, and so, by his mercy, there is no possibility of their committing namaparad. And few quotes of Srila Prabhupada, and then we are closing it out. So chanting involves the activities of the upper and lower lips as well as the tongue. All three must be engaged in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The words Hare Krishna should be very distinctly pronounced and heard. Sometimes one mechanically produces a hissing sound instead of chanting with proper pronunciation with the help of the lips and tongue. Chanting is very simple, but one must practice it seriously. So these are the various thoughts on the process of chanting Hare Krishna by the various acharyas. So thank you very much. Jai Shri Prabhupada.